Good evening. It is Thursday, June the 30th, last day of the month. It is almost 9 o'clock p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson bringing you a first forecast for the military salute regatta this Saturday that Cora is putting on. A very exciting race upcoming with the after party being at the Joe, which is going to be really fun. Couple of things to talk about this weekend for this Saturday. It does look like we're going to have some southerly winds cutting into the harbor, some decent winds to sail on. However, we are battling an unsettled pattern that's been going on for the last few days, expected to go on for the next 3 to 5 days as Gulf moisture and Atlantic moisture sort of combine over the southeast region to make things, like I said, unsettled is the key word there. Hopefully, we can get through the race without any storms, and maybe the storms will hold off till later. But either way, let's go ahead and take a look at the website. And also, just real quick, I will be at the skippers meeting tomorrow night at the Charleston Yacht Club to brief out on this particular forecast. So I'll be there in person. I'll also call the Weather Service Charleston and touch base with them to see if there's any severe threat for Saturday as well and the timing of everything there and talk to my colleagues at that office. So let me go ahead and move myself down here to the corner. This is the Corps website, and if you scroll down, you can see the Military Salute Regatta presented by Blackbaud. This is put on by Cora. We also see that the instructions are all there, so if you haven't seen them, please go. Also, for the tickets to the post-regatta party at the Joe Riley, if you're going to attend that as well, then there's going to be fireworks and food and everything like that. So looks like it's going to be a really fun time. Let's go ahead and take a look at the visible satellite, and we can see now this is Thursday night, so it may not look like this tomorrow night or Saturday night, but you can see the stream of west to east upper air that is moving some of the cloud tops from, like I said, from west to east, and some of that surface flow coming in off the ocean from the southeast. You can see pushing into South Carolina, portions of Georgia. And this is what has been sort of the pattern the last couple of days where we've seen onshore flow. We have high pressure in the Atlantic, weak high pressure, and we have a frontal system that dropped into the south and is just slowly fizzling, but it doesn't look like the moisture train is going to end anytime soon. Once you get rainfall and the ground gets moist, it tends to trigger more storms the next day in this kind of a pattern. And so we're hoping that we'll get a little bit of a break for Saturday. We can see in the sandwich image for Go 16, we can see some of that, the higher cloud tops, and even this tropical system that had a 40% chance down to a 10% chance. It looks like it's moving ashore Texas, but it just shows how this stream of moisture sort of going clockwise up and across the Gulf states and into the Carolinas. And this is what looks to be the pattern for the next couple of days. Looking at the surface map, WPC surface map, this is the culprit right here, this high pressure. Let me see if I can't get that dot a little bit bigger on the map here. And so this is the high that, and the separate lobe in the Appalachians as well, that are basically combining to get that moisture up. Now what this does is it expands the center. You see 10,024 millibars here, 10,023. So the center is fairly expanded into this region, into the southeast region. What this does is this creates a clockwise flow where we're getting southeast flow into our coast. We see this east flow cutting across Florida, coming up from the south into the Gulf states and sort of wrapping back around. And that's where all this these clouds and this rain is coming from, is this circular pattern, this clockwise pattern that's sort of going all this way right here below a front. Now this front will be dropping in slowly but surely in time, but all that does is sort of tighten the moisture gradient as it wraps back around through the southeast region. So this is sort of the indicative pattern of what's going on. Locally along the coast, this is for Friday morning. It looks like we're going to see some inland troughing and coastal showers as we get into tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. Basically, they can fire at any given time. The environment's rather unstable overall, so it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where storms and showers are going to occur because of the scattered and numerous capability for everything going on. But you can see as we get into tomorrow afternoon, it looks like the inland troughing, and that is notated here. This dashed line from WPC that is noted as troughing, where we get just cloud cover. I think a lot of what we're going to see tomorrow is probably more of a south-southeast wind, and it's going to be modest 8 to 12 knots. We'll probably see that sea breeze front form line right along the coast like we did today and then push inland. And so we ended up with an 80% chance of rain today that we really didn't get very much at the coast at all. In fact, there are very few showers. Most of that happened inland and pushed in towards over the low country, and it fizzled out as it headed towards Columbia. But there was a long line of storms that went from border to border from Georgia to North Carolina along that sea breeze front when it fired off along Walterboro and some of those inland counties as it went in. So hopefully that'll be the pattern the next couple of days, and most of that rain and showers will stay a little bit inland. We do need it along the coast as well, but for all intents and purposes, as we get out and we get into Saturday morning, looks like the same type of setup where we look like early morning where we see that coastal troughing. This is where we may see some of those isolated cells, maybe even some water spouts just along the outer coast, as we have seen the last few days. Really fired up on Tuesday, a little less yesterday, and a little maybe a little bit more tomorrow as we get into the weekend. We may see some of those little showers in the morning, those little cumuliform towers form right along the coastline, then kind of push inland as the southerly winds push the surface flow into the coastline. So that's kind of what we're looking at along the immediate coast. And as we get into, let's see, it doesn't go to the 18Z Saturday, but my opinion, as far as the wind goes, is that this Atlantic high pressure lines up a little bit better over Bermuda. And we can see that with the isobar being a little bit more robust, a little bit more southerly. That means our winds may come up from the south versus southeast, which means that the sea breeze may come up a little bit better with a return flow as we see the circulations go into the coast and back out over the ocean and circulate locally. And so that's what I'm kind of thinking is going to happen for Saturday for the race, is that we're going to get a little bit of a stronger southerly wind, maybe 10 to 14 knots in the harbor, possibly 12 to 16 as we get into 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Intervals. So that's something to look forward to. Looking at the nothing from NHC. Let's go ahead to the surface map here in our product. So this is what would look like in SailFlow. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at Chutes Folly as our point of reference for the forecast for the area. And I'm going to go ahead and run all the models here just so we get some agreement. And what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of agreement for Saturday going towards a southerly wind. Now, it looks like in the morning we have a little bit disagreement with, let me get this dot a little bit smaller, with the WOOF war for the weather flow, weather research and forecast model, starting out from the southwest early. Now, this is a little bit too early for this model to go out. A lot of these higher resolution models just drop off after about 36 to 48 hours, and then they'll pick up tomorrow morning and then go out another 12 hours and so on and so forth until they get it down to about that 36 to 48 hour mark. However, we do see the HRRR trying to throw a westerly wind into a westerly land breeze in the morning, and then eventually I think it will start up from the south. So the NAM 12, the GFS, even the Canadian model is showing. Let me just reset. So let me go back to that Saturday slot. Those models are all showing from the south by midday. So we may start up from the southwest as that front drops in from the northwest. But then as we get into midday, early afternoon, we're seeing those winds line up from the south. I said 10 to 14 knots. I'm going to hold that for right now, simply because the NAM is sniffing it out. Also, the NAM 12 is going up to 14, 15 knots. So somewhere in between is the sweet spot. We can sort of nail it down to there. And as we get into tomorrow, things will look a little bit clearer. But what is good is that it looks like there will be some wind for that afternoon. And if all goes well, some of that onshore flow will not go past the morning. In fact, we may get a dry line just at the coast and that sea breeze front pushing inland. It looks more like a very localized, shallow sea breeze front that could penetrate just inside the harbor and give just enough winds and dry air to get this race going. So that's my hopes. That's crossing my fingers. Not trying to wish cast, but I just think that given the pattern, that's generally what would happen in this kind of a setup. And so that's what I'm going to go with. Weather Service will always cover the whole area for Saturday for severe weather. There's no real severe weather threat. They're going to go ahead and cover it all for thunderstorm possibilities. And so right now we're just in a thunderstorm possibility for the day, but no severe weather as of that. Now we'll call them tomorrow as well. The tidal charts, as we get into Saturday, looks like normal tiding. We don't have any neap tides or full moon perigean tides or anything of that sort. So it looks like we're about a 4 foot swing, 4 to 5 foot swing overall. So pretty much normal in tide ranges. And as we get into that, let me see if I can't get rid of this. There we go. Get rid of that little circle there. As we get into the currents now, the timing of the tide for the day is going to be 3:28 p.m. on Saturday. So it looks like we have a slack tide at 11:32 a.m., which is just before the race, right? And then we go on an ebb tide. So the ebb tide is going to be what you're going to be sailing on. So the waters are going to be coming out of the rivers, out of the Ashley River, out of the Cooper, coming out of the harbor. This race will be on an ebb, and the current prediction is minus 1.57. So basically about 1.5 knots on the ebb. So that's not so bad, really not so bad at all. I'm going to take a couple of slides here from the Charleston Race Week that we used. This is the max ebb, and you can see the direction of on the race course here, where we would see normally the military salute regatta just about in this area here. And this is where the currents are going to be coming from. They're going to be coming from the west, going to be coming out the river. They'll be mixing, colliding with the Cooper River from the north. And then these waters will be coming out. So there's going to be some interesting things that happen here. Luckily, the tide's not going to be crazy fast. It's not going to be, it's about a 4 or 5 foot swing, so we're not looking at anything crazy. But you're going to see a line in the water that probably draws down towards Fort Johnson. That's going to be sort of a salinity clash line between the forces of both rivers coming together and the different type of materials that come out of those rivers as well. And you can see here on the max ebb, it's kind of, one of these things where you see this distinct line. You have this darker, muddier water coming out of the Ashley, this kind of cleaner water coming out of the Cooper as it's already been filtered coming into the harbor. And you can see where that line is on the ebb. And so where the race circles are out here for these is going to matter, whether you're on the south or the north side. And a lot of sailors here know this. And so hopefully you'll have some experienced hands on the boat that will help you navigate these areas where the ebb and the flood comes in. So this is going to be I wouldn't even bother looking at the flood because this is going to be on the ebb tide for this race. But you'll see differences in where those winds come up, especially when you have a south wind coming overland. It tends to be very dirty as it comes right off the land over the water, and then it settles down up in this area. So you give it about a good quarter to half a mile away from the coastline, and you'll see the wind start to mix down over this way. A lot of times you'll see stronger than 14 knots, stronger than the forecast, but it also comes in waves, so it may not be evenly dispersed throughout the whole harbor. At times you may see some struggling in the winds around 7 or 8 knots, and then it shoots up to 14, 15 knots here. And then back here, it starts to pick up. Over here, it's dying. So, it's like it's sort of the ups and downs of the harbor, and we'll talk about that more at the briefing tomorrow. But just wanted to give you a heads up on that. As far as air temperatures go, looks like we're going to be in the mid 80s for Saturday, upper 80s to low 90s for Sunday if you're planning on sticking around for another day. But looks like very pleasant weather, and probably I would imagine this temperature will go up to upper 80s under the sun, right? So if you're in pure sunlight without any clouds around you, without any rain, probably going to be upper 80s. And that's what the models here at the airport are showing, more clouding than anything else. So we're probably looking at mid to upper 80s overall for the harbor area. And with that, I'll go ahead and end the forecast. I know it was a lot to digest, but I think given the circumstances, we're going to go with some decent racing in the harbor area for Saturday, unless we just get a complete washover from the oceanic sort of moisture content. But I don't see that happening. We'll talk more about it tomorrow night at the Skipper's meeting. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.